Majas está.
Hey, girl.
Hey, Mersi.
Hey, friend.
Hey,
How
friend.
you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast. We've been trying to do this forever.
Yes,
And
it's been
finally,
so long.
we're able to get together. So I know people might not know you. People that know me might not know you, and vice versa, right? So tell us who we are.
So my name is Giselle. I'm your sister, of course. I'm the drummer at Getsemani. I'm in Loyola University. I'm studying criminology. It's my last year. And I'm excited to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for being here again. So let's just get to it. So I always really been curious. I remember when we were about to get into college, nosotros no sabíamos qué hacer, qué estudiar, none of that, right? We were in high school. Todo el mundo sabe que your last year of high school is so stressful. How did you decide to study criminology?
So I remember when I was in high school, like I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I remember like I started just like Googling stuff and like just trying to see like what was my interest. And I remember I got this email. It looked like a spam email and it said interested in the FBI. I said, what? Like, I'm not about to click on this. So I did. And it was actually Noma who was like sponsoring like the FBI or I don't know, something like that. But they had like a collab, I think. And so like I signed up for it and like I had the principal sign off like the papers. So I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And so it was actually like a FBI Academy for teens.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, you know what? Let me just go. So I remember that day, like I was very nervous. I think it was a weekend.
That was before college?
Yes, this was before college.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yo me acuerdo that you did that, but pensé que tú lo habías hecho while you were in school.
No.
That was before.
So that was when I was in high school.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like almost like towards May. Like the
right
year
before
was
you
about to
graduated
finish.
high school.
So I remember getting ready for that day. And I remember I woke up so late. So like I just threw something on. Like I was just so nervous. And I never expected the FBI like building to be in the East. Never.
Where East?
I
forgot. I know
no,
you said
it was by Chalmette. By Chalmette.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, and
you
girl, I was so late. And it's the FBI. Like you can't play around. Like, you know. So after that, like I was rushing. They had a 1 hour traffic. You know that traffic on that GNO.
No te creo.
It was bad. So then, you know, like I got there, like they took away my phone. Like it was, you know, it's the FBI. You know,
Yeah.
I did not know what to expect.
Right.
So, you know, I got there and everything. And so I remember like they were just teaching us like different like what are they called, like categories or kind of like different sections of the FBI,
Departments?
Like departments. Yeah, that's the word. So like I remember they were showing us that. They showed us like the cybersecurity. They showed us like finances. They have a department for finances. They have a department for criminal investigation, like all these things. And I remember this one time where they took us to this room and we did like kind of like a crime scene analysis. So they got a camera, they put it in the middle, and they kind of like scanned the room around. And so like the camera got literally kind of like the size of the room and everything. So we had to kind of like explain how a crime scene happened. And so after that, like we went to this other room and it was a locker and it was a classroom. So they hid some stuff there and we had to like grab the things and kind of like plot and see like, you know, this is here because tal cosa, you know. And there was also like they showed us how to collect fingerprints. So we had to pick up fingerprints, which was really cool. And there was also like they put blood on the wall. I think it was like a goat blood or duck blood, something. But they showed us this liquid in like this little spray bottle and they shook it around. And whenever you spray on the wall, if it's blood, it will glow purple.
Oh, cool.
If it's not blood, then it will just, you won't see anything.
Yeah, you won't see anything.
So it was just really interesting to me. And so I remember after that, like I was just very like
impactada. Yeah,
yes.
by that experience.
Yes.
Everything they had you doing.
Yes.
So
yeah. So then after that, I was like, you know what? Like, I think this is something that I want to do. So I remember applying for colleges. I remember Dad was really mad because we applied for LSU and like all these other colleges.
Wait, why was he mad?
Well, he was like, yo ya no quiero dar $50 para, because you know how you gotta submit the resume.
That's true.
Yeah, so he was like, no, Loyola y punto. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna get in, you know?
Right.
So I remember, like, you know, it was always like, where you go, I go. You know, you be my big sister.
True.
So wherever you would be, I would be. But college is different, you know?
Yeah.
So And then I also remember taking my ACT. I did really bad. Like, I'm not qualified to be a college student, you know.
Aww.
But I did it by faith.
Yeah.
So, you know, I signed up for Loyola and everything. And I think it was my last week of school or my last day of school. And I remember I was getting ready, and I remember you going and knocking on my door. Like, it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. And you were out of school.
I was up early?
Yeah, I think you were working at CC's or, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or you were in college too, I think.
Yeah, it was my first year in college. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So I remember that. And so you knocked on my door and you were like, Giselle, something came for you. And I was like, what? Like, I haven't ordered anything. And so you came, and it was this huge box, like this big. Mm-hmm. And like, I opened it. And like, when I opened the lid, it said, welcome to the Wolf Pack. And I was just like,
oh,
what? Like,
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that. And in the middle, there was a scholarship. And so, like, it was truly just God, you know? And so, like, you know, I got my scholarship. So I remember one day we sat down and we started looking at, like, all, like, the different majors in Loyola.
Yeah.
And I remember picking, what was it?
Real quick, she got a scholarship because of me.
No, I didn't.
Well,
no.
Hey, they have the legacy scholarship at Loyola.
It was $3,000.
Which blew my, it's $3,000.
For the legacy.
Blew my mind that they give you a scholarship of your siblings in school. Yeah. Like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So I remember, like, you know, we sat down. I started looking at all the different departments for Loyola. Yeah. And so for me, it made sense to go into forensic chemistry, you know, because it's fingerprints, hair follicles, like blood, like all these things.
The
so
analysis,
I was like, the analysis, the lab part of it. So I was just like, you know what, like, that's what I want to do. Yeah. So I remember, like, I think it was like 2 weeks before the semester started, and we got like our schedules and all that stuff, and we started picking classes. You made me like look through the classes, and I was like, Mercy, this is a lot of chemistry. This is a lot of math. Like, I do not like this. It's a bit much. So, like, I remember, like, I was just like, this is not for me. Like, I'm not a math person. Like, I did terrible in math.
Yeah, you gotta be like a numbers person.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of science.
Yeah. It's way too much. So then after that, I was just like, you know what? Like, no. And I remember you got mad at me. You were like, Giselle, you gonna change your major now? So I remember, like, I was just looking through the courses. So I was like, let's try criminology. So, you know, like, I started, like, you know, I registered as a crim major. And so I started looking at the classes, and I just completely fell in love. So I remember my first semester, I took a class that was sex offenses and offenders. And I remember that class. I'm going
to tell you real quick. You've always told me stories. Like, and I would love to just kind of go back, because it's crazy. Like, the stories you told me, you know me, I'm scary. I don't do documentaries, I don't do nothing. But when you tell me these stories, it's like, it's better, because you're saying it, I'm not watching it, you know what I mean? So I would love to go over some of the stories as, like, you're in those classes, cases, better said, because they're cases, not stories. So yeah, that class you took is crazy. So what? And that was your first semester?
Yeah, that was my first semester. And it was really, like...
And that was a heavy class, right?
Yeah. And I truly, honestly, like, I was traumatized, like, my first semester. And I was like, this is too much. Like, I was like, I don't think I'm meant to study criminology. It was really hard for me. But I remember, like, the first week of school, all my crim professors, said that, you know, everything we're going to talk about is going to be really hard. So if anytime we feel like, you know, we want to step out, we're welcome to step out, you know. And that was just throughout the whole semester. Before every book we read, before every, like, slideshow we had to go through, it was always like, if you feel uncomfortable or if you start feeling nauseous, like, there would be students who would get out and throw up. Like,
I was gonna tell you that, me imagino que some of the, like, especially in that class, you might have been through rape and sexual assault cases that might have triggered people in those classes who maybe have gone through those experiences and had to relive that. So I understand. So
yeah, but it was, like, really hard. Like, I remember in one of my domestic violence classes with Dr. Taylor, which she's amazing, really, really good.
I've heard good things about her.
She's really good. I remember we were talking about, it was my my victimology course. So, like, we were learning about, like, victims and, like, domestic violence. It was really hard. And I remember there was this one time when we were learning, because you know how people say, oh, he choked me or she choked me. But we learned that it's not about, it's, like, technically it's strangling. It's not choking. We choke on food, but whenever somebody te ahorca, it's because they're strangling you. So, like, you know, just learning little differences like that really, like, changes your perspective on things. But I do remember
why did they point that out?
Oh, well, I'm gonna get to it.
Oh,
so
okay.
we were looking at this case where this guy, he killed his girlfriend, and so he strangled her. And so we looked up at a picture of her brain, and her brain was black because it had no more oxygen. So whenever like you stop breathing, like your brain becomes black, like it has like little spots, and it just looks really weird. So I remember this girl walked out, and she was just crying and crying and crying. And so, you know, like, because we're in the middle of the class, the professor couldn't go out after her, you know. So and then like we never saw that girl again. I think she just dropped out the course because it was really, really hard. But, you know, that's something that our professors always told us, you know, like there's a lot of people que se puede like identify themselves with like the material that we're talking about, or like maybe it had like a family member or something that went through it. So it was really hard. But I remember that first 2 weeks, it was so hard for me. Like I remember like every single day after class, my head would hurt. Like it would pound and pound because I was just so overwhelmed.
Era fuerte el material.
It was really, really strong, rough. You know, like I never heard about such things, you know, like I remember my
girl, like just getting into college de un solo, like
you know, like coming from high school, like I was like in, you know, like ACT prep classes, not no sex offenses and offenders, you know. Crazy. So I remember one of the like the cases that our professor told us, it was about this guy in the French Quarter, and what do you call it, like when people have like sexual relationships with animals, what is it called? Bestiality? Yeah, so we were talking about a bestiality class, a bestiality case, and I was like I was in class. Yes, like it was so rough. And what happened? It was in the French Quarter. So this guy, he was just like having sex with the horses
in public
on the French Quarter at night. Yes. Ew. It was crazy. And he was young. He was like 20. He was in his 20s, late 20s, mid to late 20s.
That's crazy that was here.
Yes.
Like tan cerca.
Yes. It was crazy. And so like,
what did they do with him? Did they find him?
Yeah. They put him in jail. Yeah, for sure. And then I also remember like there was this other case where like this guy, he was like a farmer. And so like this was back in what I think 70s, 80s, 90s, por ahí. I remember like one of the pigs was pregnant. So whenever the pigs had, you know, the little baby pigs, one of the pigs had like one eye, and it was like a blue eye, or two eyes, I don't remember, but the pig looked so weird, like really, really weird. So they started accusing the farmer for having, you know, for getting the pig pregnant and having that little pig. So basically they telling him that pig looks like him.
You are the father.
You are the father. Yeah, the deformed pig, like that's his baby. But you know,
girl,
it was
where
like,
was this? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Oh my
but
God.
You know, it was just like, it wasn't real. Like he didn't have, you know, he didn't get the pig.
Girl,
you can't do that.
Like, why would they say that?
Yeah, so like it was just crazy. But you know, we just talked about that, like just to like kind of like get an understanding, you know, like of other things and like other theories. So
wait, real quick. So si tú estás estudiando like criminología, right? Was that class an elective, or was that like a required class to take?
So that's a required class.
Do you know why?
You have to like get like your sex offenses like credit. So like anything that has to do with like sex laws or anything like that, I had to get the credit for that.
So you did study laws también, like
not laws. We studied a lot of theories.
Okay, theory, criminal theory.
We studied a lot of criminal theory. So we learned a lot about. We learned a lot about all that stuff, but you know, criminology, it was hard. It was tough, you know, especially like when we talked about things like suicide, which was really, really hard. Like I would just leave school and I would just be like kind of cold, you know, like in my inside. I just felt like kind of weird about it. Like I remember my professor, she shared with us that one of her students were struggling with suicide, and she said that her student sent her an email. He's like, hey, like I walk around campus and I stand on top of all the buildings and I just look down. And I just think about throwing myself. And God. I remember after that class, I just started looking up everywhere. And I was like, Lord, que nadie se caiga de aquí, por favor. Yeah. So I rember
no te creo. Wait, but how did you find out about it?
They shared it with us. She shared it with us. Yeah.
Okay, got you.
You know, so it was just like, it was really, really hard. And just like in our minds, you know, like it was a lot.
It does something to you psychologically. It does make you, guys, there's a fly in here. Welcome to the podcast. But there is something that happens to you psychologically. He just wants to listen. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. Something that happens psychologically to you. I'm going to tell you, like, I watched one documentary, Giselle, and I feel things so deeply. So when I watched that documentary, literally, yo no puedo dormir, like, that's all I think about. Ando así, like, con mis ojos pelados, like, it happens. Yeah. There's definitely a psychological impact on your mind. So kind of going back, so you specifically went into school because you were like, I like what I did at the FBI, and you were like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. So I remember speaking to one of the FBI agents there, and I was like, hey, so like, how do you get into this work? And she's like, it's pretty easy. And I was like, what you mean it's pretty easy? It's the FBI. Like, no es cualquier persona que puede entrar. And I was like, well, what do you need to study to, you know, in school to get in the FBI? She's like, I studied to be a teacher. You know, she was like, the only thing you need is a bachelor's. Like, it really doesn't matter what you get a bachelor's in. But, you know, I decided to take the crim route because I hate math. I hate English. I hate history. I hate everything. But crim was something, you know, that I was always interested in. So for the most part, like, you know, being in school, I never really felt like I was in school at some points. Like, I always just felt like it was just very me, you know, like it was just very, I enjoyed it, you know, like I was stressed out with exams and, you know, all, you know, normal. Yeah. But it was just like, it was just so interesting to me. Like, even when I would get home, like, I would sit, eat, and watch, like, a whole crime scene on my phone. And I remember you'd be like, Giselle, how can you do that? You're eating.
And Giselle, like, comía sus huevos con frijoles, queso. El man mató 6,000 gente. Giselle, I'm like, what? Giselle, what? Like, how do you do that? I mean, me va el hambre. But, yeah, so that's pretty cool that you got that experience. Yeah. And I think that just goes to show how important it is to do internships and get yourself out there in real work settings para que tú veas, like, is this me? Do I feel like my skills, like, do you feel like your skills as Giselle complement what you're studying? I do. And that's something that brings me a lot of peace. And also, I feel like I've also developed skills while studying criminology. Like, obviously, like, I learned a lot of the material, but something that I found in myself was my passion for social justice. As a Christian, right, Cristiana, what does social justice mean to you? So I love that you're asking that. And that's something that I've... I love people say that. Ask me again. Oh, my God. But I remember, you know, como humano. Like, as Giselle. Why? O sea, ¿qué te atrae? What are you like? Justice. As a Christian, as Giselle, like, do you care? What do you care about other people? You know, what do you feel like you can do? What do you know, what does it all mean to you? So, as myself, you know, I'm, you know, have a Christian background. Like, I believe, you know, in las leyes de Dios, like, all that stuff. So, for me, justice will always be through the lens of Christ. It will always be that way. I cannot do it through my lens because my justice might not be the same justice that God wants, you know. So, you know, and it's hard sometimes because people don't like that. People don't like justice, you know, like, you know, we have to be able to feel like lo que le duele al Señor no duele a nosotros. You know, we cannot be like, oh, eso le duele a Dios, but it doesn't hurt me. Like, it doesn't work that way, you know. So just like seeing things through the lens of Christ and through his eyes, like just seeing things the righteous way, for me, that is justice. You know, like I say no to abortion. I don't agree with that. I mean, people say, you know, it's my life and this and that, you know, like I don't agree with that. Or I don't agree. I love them with all my heart, but I don't agree with homosexuality. You know, it's just like, that's not God's design. Exactly. You know, so just for me, justice is that. And also, like, you know, just aparte de eso, I feel like justice in, like, you know, when it comes to situations where, like, somebody's being affected or things like that, like, I always refer back to the Bible. You know, like, is this righteous? Is this decision, you know,
lo que quiere el Señor. Like, I remember Paul.
What was Jesus do?
Yeah, what would Jesus
that's
do?
Such a good question.
Yes.
Before you do something.
Yeah, and I know it sounds like so cliche. Like, everybody says that. What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? Yeah. And, like, it's so light for people to say, what would Jesus do? But actually, what would he do?
Transportarse a la mente de Jesús in that very moment.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're in a difficult situation, dealing with a difficult person or difficult people, or something happened, you know, and you like, your flesh wants to act a certain way or say a certain something.
Yeah.
And you just kind of hold back.
Yeah.
You hold back because está siempre esta lucha entre la carne y el espíritu. Where it's like, you know, you're trying to be this specific person and you want to reflejar a Cristo en tu vida for others to see, right? You want when people see you to be like, veo a Cristo, veo el amor de Cristo, veo todo la paz, veo la justicia, like, veo todo eso. But then there's you. And, ¿sabes? Today, Joel was preaching. You know, he preached today. I don't know if I told you.
No, I
But
don't know.
he preached today about el ministerio del justo, and it was really good. I'm going to send it to you para que lo escuches. But one of the things he was talking about was there's a verse in the Bible where basically you start your path en la oscuridad. And I think a lot of people think that once you're saved, everything's cute. No, you start in the darkness. And the verse says that as you're walking, the sun, the day starts alumbrándose. But there hasn't been a perfect day just yet, because I made that connection, you know, like when Jesus comes, that's when the perfect day will be, you know, but will manifest the perfect day when Jesus comes. So it was really nice to see that basically he made an analogy that it connects with justice, where as we walk through this path, we become more just. And he was saying that as we walk the path as well, we have to die. And we will get into the Bible in just a little bit, but la Biblia is such a big part of our lives. It's crazy. Like, I think about how, you know, it's crazy because Dios ya tiene todo hecho, todo planeado, ya todo está hecho. So he specifically was like, they're going to be sisters. And he specifically was like, they're going to be born in a ministry family, and they're going to be under a mom and a dad who are going to try to manage a church and do it for a few years. You know, we're not there now, but God always siempre quiso que estuviéramos like así, like Dios siempre nos tuvo así, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of hijos de pastores nacen en el ministerio and tienen que entender, like, wow, qué bendición que Dios dijo, no, I need you here, I need you close to me. Pudiéramos haber nacido familia de who know what, you know, allá, saber con quién, you know, pero God always wanted us en el ministerio, sirviendo, something, you know, and I think that's such a blessing. Now, cuando entramos a high school, man, it's like, it's crazy. In high school specifically, el enemigo, like, literally gets in your head, te tira dardos, and you're young, you're fighting it. That's why it's so important to be around, you know, a really supportive family or buenos líderes, you know, o padres que oran, because yo sé que mami oraba bastante. So that's really good. Pero como dice la palabra, dejen que los niños vengan a mí, cuando fueren pues viejos nunca se apartarán de él. So that's how I feel like even though in high school we kind of started drifting away, como like not like no fuimos, pero kind of losing interest in church, because we're like, oh, eso de viejos, this boring, you know, y uno no le encuentra el sabor, uno no tiene el hambre, specifically cuando tienes hábitos, like si escuchas música mundana todos los días. And I did struggle with that a while back. It's like I would listen to non-Christian music. The moment that I stopped listening to non-Christian music, just, I felt completely new. Y me impactó. And you know, after like a year after that, I started looking into like music, the effect of music. I started thinking about, wait, why did my psyche just change? And started listening to worship. First of all, it definitely has to do with my connection with the Holy Spirit. Like, once that grows, then I start feeling better. I start feeling full. I start feeling that hunger for God. Me fortalece. Pero listening to the bad music every day, and then you go to church, like, que no va, you know, malos hábitos, tú tomas, tú bebes, like, it's obvious, you know. That's why when people come to Christ, without anyone telling them, they know they need to leave those things, because it doesn't go. So So about the music, I actually wanted to get a little bit into the music. So growing up, I don't know. I don't think people know like our full story, but growing up, how was it that it happened? I think my dad needed un baterista. I cannot remember that, but he knew una baterista, so he was like, Mersi. He's like, toca. So I'm like, okay, cool. So he just tungi, and like tungi, right? And then like adoración. And we would literally do cultos like that. Mi pa en el piano, yo tungi. Okay, cool. And that was it. But there came a time where I think we were already in like the Barataria church, right? Where I was like, no, I wanna move. I wanna learn something new. So I think I started teaching him like, Giselle, play like this. You know what's funny? I still have a video of when we were like, hi, my name is Melvin. Dude.
Nice to meet you.
Giselle had just learned like a beat and I just started rapping, man. We were like, what, 10?
Yeah,
11
we were
or
like
10?
12 and 11.
Yeah, we were little. We were just rapping like, my
system.
So we just started like singing. It still goes hard. But so Giselle started learning the drum. And I taught her everything she knows. No, I'm kidding. No, Giselle's put work in. So
I really have.
Music también. And dad too. And parece que tenemos un tío en Honduras. Luis Thomas, you know that man? Luis Thomas on Facebook.
It's not Michelle's husband, right?
No. Luis Thomas.
Like
he's like
that dark man, morenito.
Yeah. Him, I think he sings. Yeah. He sings over there. So it's great. Shout out to Tío Luis.
Shout out to my people.
Mi raza, mi pueblo.
Raza por Christ.
But so siento que también like in our family, music has always been a part of us. With dad, you know, being a musician. So right now, this very moment, we're at different churches, but you play the drum and you play it beautifully and amazingly for the glory of God. And I play the bass and I love it. So I'm just like hopping onto this thing because I love music. So do you feel like you've grown as a drummer?
So I do. I really do feel like I've grown. And like I love that question too, because you know, a lot of the times as a musician, when we say, are you growing? People refer to in the instrument. But you know, like this whole year, I've realized that my growth has been primeramente my spiritual growth, my relationship with the Lord. And I think that has really inspired me to give my best every single day, every single time I practice. And it has been challenging at times. Like, you know, my leaders, they will send me a song. They're like, ¿Qué opinas de eso para un domingo en la mañana? Which is like our biggest service. And I'm like, you know, I freeze. But I said, let's do it. And I challenged myself and I said, you know, let's do it. I have a week to learn it, or I have 2 weeks to learn it, but we're going to do it. And, you know, like I've also, when I first got to my church, it was really hard. You know, it was a ministry that's really big in music. And they use a lot of like techie stuff that I didn't know about. You know, I come from playing with an electric drum set and, you know, like.
Ain't nothing wrong with that though.
There's not. But, you know, it was really hard. Like, learning how to play with the click, learning how to play with the track, like, you know. Yeah. And so I remember one of the first songs they gave me was Alístate from New Wine. Alístate, que pronto viene el rey.
Oh, you just that one, or you did the whole thing? Naciones, because that's Naciones.
No. Just the Alístate part.
Okay. El viene ya.
But it was with a click. So when I was practicing, like, I remember I would put like a secuencia on my phone and like I would use the click that they're using. And like in my mind and in practicing, I thought I was doing really good. I was like, you know what? I got this. We get to church and like we don't practice. Like we try to practice like once a week. But we didn't, like the time I had to play, we didn't practice. We just got there an hour before, like 30 minutes before to do a sound check. And I remember I was like so off time. Like the song is like really fast, right? And I would just be like
That's a really hard song para ser la primera.
Yeah, it was hard.
Gozo en los cielos.
It was
Also,
so
it was
hard.
Like
Yeah,
that.
but like, you know, with the click, I
and
was
you gotta
just
be consistent también.
yes. Like, I cannot go too fast, because if I go too fast, pierdo todo mundo. If I go too slow, pierdo todo mundo. Like, I really have to
my
pay
God.
attention to that click.
And I've been to your church, y la batería is like,
It's loud.
it's the loudest one.
Yes.
So it's important. It's
Yeah.
the heart of y'all's band.
Yeah.
Is making sure that the drum is on
Yeah.
time. So that's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure. And so I remember, like, after that day, and then, like, I played Santo, and then I played, like, some worship, and then, like, another song I don't remember. But the only song que me salió más o menos was Santo. And I think I still have that video on my Instagram.
You know, I can imagine, though, even though you're saying, que antes que no tocaba bien, pero I can imagine the Giselle from, how long ago was that, a year ago?
I think it was, like, 3 or 2.
So I can imagine the Giselle from 2 years ago, when you were getting on there, you probably felt a lot of emotion, huh?
Yeah.
Being like, wow, this is a big opportunity. And I'm going to tell you something. Fíjate que es similar aquí con aquí. So when we're still with dad at my dad's church, me acuerdo que nosotros, I don't know if I ever told you this. I might have. I don't know if I ever told you though. No, I don't know. Pero nosotros llegamos aquí because they would have like cultos, eventos, and things like that. And I would walk in and I would be like, wow. Because I remember one day specifically, we walked in and they're playing. This is when New Wine was the big thing. It was like, wow. So they're playing Sube, Sube, Sube.
Here?
Aquí. Nosotros entramos and we were sitting in the back row. Y escucho yo, Sube, Sube, Sube. And some of the singers, I won't say their names, but they sounded good. Yeah. The music sounded incredible.
Yeah.
And you know, we come from not that level.
Yeah.
You know, because it wasn't many of us, you know, we didn't have, you know. Pero I'm watching them and I'm like, wow. Basically, my point that I'm trying to get to is I was impactada and I was like, I have un deseo to one day be a part of a band like that. Pero that's my point. Era la admiración that I had for that band. I'm listening, I'm enjoying it. It was like saboreando. You know when music's good, you just feel like you're saboreando la música. So, anyways, that day, that's all. Pero I know it wasn't about me, it wasn't about them. I know we're glorifying God at the end of the day. Pero man, I was just staring at. I think that was the first time I ever heard them, like, you know, playing. You know, we're a full culto. That's my point, that I had a lot of admiration. But what shocks me is that, well, I have two things I want to say. The first thing is, one day I'm up here. By the way, I'm here now, and I'm in that band.
Yeah.
And one day I'm on the bass and I'm worshiping, and when I'm on the bass, I really try to not make it about me or about anyone there. I really feel like I'm in my room, because I worship in my room, so I feel like I'm in my room, you know, and I just get into it, you know. I feel like God is watching over. So I worship. And se me vino ese versículo that's like, Dios conoce los anhelos de tu corazón, and you're here. And man, I just felt like, oh my God, I wanted to cry, because it was like, I never realized, you know, because la vida, todo, and you don't realize, like, wow, the thing that one day I hope for, I'm standing here. Yeah. So, I don't know if I ever told, did I ever tell you that? I've never told you that. No. That's crazy. So, yeah, and I was like, wow, one day, estaba soñando, and now I'm here standing. Wow. Another thing, I got goosebumps 2 days ago. I never told you this, but one day when I was líder de jóvenes, you remember that? In Dash Church? That. One day I was tirada and I was praying over jóvenes, and I was actually crying. I remember feeling una carga en mi corazón, like, Dios, no tenemos muchos jóvenes, pero cuando vengan, te oro, Señor, que tú toques los corazones, que se salven. Y yo estaba orando. And no sé si es cosa mía, because sometimes you're praying and you're like, es cosa mía, Señor, es tú, dame una señal.
Soy yo, o eres
yeah,
tú?
You're like, soy yo, dame una señal. So I'm praying y yo me veo on a stage outdoors. Wow. And I see musicians and I see Giselle, veo miles de gentes in the crowd. I'm getting goosebumps. And I'm on the stage y yo sentí algo decir, like, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it, but it came as a thought, like, one day you're going to play in big crowds. Wow. Giselle, and I'm sitting there like, bro, I hope que no me estoy durmiendo, because I was praying. I'm like, I hope que no me estoy durmiendo. Pero no. Y se me había olvidado. Mira, right now, currently, we are practicing for an event, a really big event. Daddy Yankee's coming. Sorry, Raymond Ayala's coming to New Orleans, and we've been practicing with really good musicians. Mi respeto, from other churches, and like 2 days ago, on Thursday it was. No, that was like what, 4 days ago. I'm walking through my house and boom, se me vino a la mente y toda mi piel se me erizó. And I'm like, whoa, wait, pause the world. So that one, it was like a vision kind of foreshadowing. That one thing that I saw in my prayer one day, here I am. And there will be a lot of people. And it's crazy. Si no saben, I don't think I've told you about the magnitude of this. So for pretty much, you know, people who are here will know and that go to church. Churches in New Orleans and Louisiana have always kind of been divided. Nunca ha habido un espíritu de unidad. We've never kind of been, you know, together. So what we're trying to do is, a lot of churches are coming together. It's crazy because El Pastor Johnny de La Gran Comisión had that feeling in his heart. And so did a lot of pastors from El Faro, had that feeling in their heart where they're like, we should kind of like talk to that church over there. And Johnny was like, we should talk to that group over there. Because they were like, we want to do something in this city. There's a revival happening. So what they decided to do is we want to do un Día de la Biblia, but legal Día de la Biblia, like sellarlo. So on the 14th, it's going to be next Saturday from this podcast, next Saturday's. Basically, they're going to go and they're going to do a caravana all around the city. It's going to take about an hour. They're going to do una caravana. We're going to get in your car. It's free and va a ir protegido por policías. So we got permission and all that. There's going to be people on helicopters as well. I think there's 4. They will be praying, ungiendo la ciudad desde arriba. And after that caravana, everyone's going to come back to La Gran Comisión and we're just going to have un culto de celebración. Because we want to do Día de la Biblia. At nighttime, they're going to leer una acta. There's going to be signatures and there will be 3 important political figures at the event that will seal it, that will sign, that will be there to witness, you know. And it's really important that people show up. I think Pastor, who was saying this? I think it was William who was saying this today, that it's important que la gente llegue because si no llega, they're going to be, esta gente está inventando. But si llega la gente, you know, then they're going to be like, wow, there's actually a big people. There's something I really like is que alguien está haciendo un monumento de una Biblia, soldando una Biblia, and they're going to pick a neutral spot in the city and they're going to poner monumento. Y todos los años, since it's going to be a legal holiday aquí en el estado de Luisiana, people are going to, ese es el punto de reunión, you know what I mean? So,
that's beautiful.
Is the church trying to like kind of go into the government, change things? Absolutely. And you know, our new governor, I love our new governor. He said that the schools have to have the 10 Commandments in the classrooms now.
Is that I think I saw that
Jeff
video.
Landry?
I think
that is 100% real. That really is happening. And I've seen interviews with him. He's like, I didn't know que los 10 mandamientos iban a ofender tanta gente.
Yeah, and also I think it's the governor of Oklahoma too. Or like one of the governors there. I don't know, somebody in Oklahoma. He was talking about that too. He was like how the Bible is so important to history.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's just...
Yeah, so basically it's really cool because there's a shift going to happen in our city, you know. And I invite a lot of people, and hopefully we can, all these walls of division, that it can like come down and we can come together. And we're not trying to like specifically shout out a certain group of people, a certain church or anything. This is literally about Bible and glorifying God that day. So super cool event that's happening. And the reason why I was telling you that is because for real, like I was walking into my house and that reminder came to me and I'm like, wow, God, like you have promises, they will happen. And it's crazy that sometimes God does show you things, visions and dreams and thoughts, and in that moment you might not take it seriously, but God does remind you down the line. He's like, be stand, like you know. So it's cool. So worship I think is important too, because you gotta be in espíritu y en verdad. That's right. I never really like 100% understood it till I actually started like in the band and started, you know. So it's so important, Giselle, right, to be consistent. When you're up on stage, it's important to also, as un ministro.
Yeah.
Había una predica de una mujer, she was like, cuando yo pasaba a predicar, yo miraba que los músicos se iban al baño, se iban para la casa, se iban para atrás, estaban en el teléfono, los que supuestamente estaban haciendo el ambiente ahorita. You know what I mean? No, you need to be here listening to the word. So, as a musician, do you think that, how important do you think it is to seek of God and actually do some growing, growing spiritually? Or do you think that going on stage is just enough, just showing up and playing?
So I think that as a musician is very important, and I think that it's something that should be foundation for us as musicians, is to have a relationship with the Lord, a solid relationship. Yes, we will never be perfect, but we can also never, ever, ever feel like what we do for God is enough, because that defeats the whole purpose of who God is. You know, it will never be enough because he deserves it all and more and more. And it's just, we can never give him enough for what he has done. So I think that us having a relationship with the Lord is so important. And that's something that, like, I was sharing with you too, is that, like, when I did started, like, getting more into the word and everything, even my worship became different. Like, even when I play, it's not like I used to just play, I don't want to say it like this, pero, por compromiso. I used to just play porque necesitaban, or because I was in another church and, they needed a drummer, or porque soy hija de pastor, like, I would play, but it was something that I never really, like, I guess I never really worshipped on the drum, like, I would just play. But now, and even recently, it's like I really worship, like, even when I practice, like, I'm just so filled with his presence even in practice. And so, like, se siente como ministramos como grupo. That's, the point, we're helping and all that stuff. So I think it is very important. That is something that is we're very, very big on that at our church. Like, there's churches that are like, si no se bautiza, no sube al altar. O si no anda pantalón de tela, no se sube al altar. Si anda,
Pharisees,
right,
these religious
like,
people. Yeah.
That's not the point. But, like, us, it's like, it's crucial.
Sí.
It's crucial. Nada a la fuerza. But it's very crucial, and that's something that we also practice as musicians. Like, I was just having a conversation with my leader yesterday after the fast, and I was like, qué lindo es el mensaje que estamos dando como grupo de alabanza. It's like, we, like, no solamente tocamos, sino que también adoramos cuando estamos, like, we're not on the stage, cuando we're just there. And, like, on the fast that we had yesterday, every single musician pasó enfrente, delante de todos los jóvenes, hizo una oración. We were doing intercession. So, cada uno de nosotros pasamos. Dejamos de cantar o de tocar y pasamos a adorar. And so, I'm like, qué lindo es el mensaje que estamos dando. We're not, your musicians that just play. We're actually adoradores. Y qué lindo es eso. So, I do think that it's very important as a musician to have a relationship with God, because, la adoración es para Dios. No es para el pueblo. Es para Dios. Absolutely. No es para nosotros. Es para Dios. Todo es para el Señor. And so just having that relationship with the Lord, it's like, ya sabes a quién estás adorando. Sabes por qué estás adorando. Y tenés muchas más razones por qué adorarle. And it's just, it really is beautiful. Y también siento que eso se transmite en el pueblo.
Of course, yeah.
Y como grupo de alabanza, it's powerful. Si todos ayunamos y todos estamos en el mismo acuerdo, el mismo sentir del Espíritu se va a transmitir en la iglesia, and that's the point, So, yeah, I think it's very important,
hace I think 2 months ago, estaba dando una prédica con los jóvenes, and it was about worship, because I was noticing that en los servicios they weren't worshiping, and something was like, I think que no entienden. Because that happens. Si tú no entiendes algo, like, especially when you're in church, like, si tú no sabes la magnitud de quién es Cristo, quién es Dios, then you're not going to worship. Because, like, what am I worshiping, you know? So I took that day, me pidieron que predicar, I'm like, okay, cool. And I showed up, and it was really quick, but I went into the details of qué es worship. So I was like, guys, just like los pescados nadan, birds fly, nosotros somos seres que adoran naturalmente. Like, inherently, that is our design. We worship. How so? Well, everything that breathes worships. That's what the Bible says, right, in Psalms. Right. But then again, we're the type of people that whenever we in our life siempre tenemos que tener algo en primer lugar. Siempre ponemos a algo o a alguien en primer lugar. How so? When you're looking for money, that's your God, you know? And that's why in the 10 commandments it says don't serve any other God but me. Yeah. Don't worship any other God but me, because God should be in the first place, like on our pedestal. But we make the mistake of putting our pride there, or putting ourselves there, or putting like somebody you're in love with there, an idol, work, you know. We put a lot of other things there because it's hard, it's a challenge, right? But the thing is que somos seres que adoran. O sea, there's always going to be something in first place. So it's beautiful to me that en nuestro diseño, that is how God intended us to be. So when the verse says, hay que adorarle en espíritu y en verdad, I'm like, quiero desmenuzar. Like, quiero entender. What do you mean by that? And what I really understood is, like, at the end of the day, to really be a true worshiper, you have to morir as a person. You need to sacrifice. And you really need to, like, live for this truth. Vivir por Cristo, expresar a Cristo. Cantar is easy. Tocar el bajo, tocar la batería is easy. I mean, no, it's not easy. You gotta practice y todo, pero it's you know, whatever.
Anyone
Puede ser
can
un
do
cualquiera.
Yeah.
Pero worship en espíritu, people like, ¿cómo es que se llama? Marco Brunet, Lucas Consley. These people cantan y cantan bello, pero uno discierne en el espíritu. ¿Dónde? ¿En qué nivel andan estas personas? And these are people that I do consider worshipers in espíritu. They don't get tired. They love this. They have a passion. And what I like about it is they don't just sing. They go, they travel, predican, you know, hablan de Cristo to these different audiences, a los jóvenes, things like that, right? Join people like Upper Room, que atraen mucha juventud, you know? And I love Upper Room. We went to Upper Room, ¿cuándo fue? I think it was a while back. Giselle, se siente exagerado. Like, I think I did tell you. Uno está ahí, pero uno entra y uno ve toda la iglesia, like I felt like I was in heaven for a second there. It really felt like como que estábamos literally face to face with God, with Christ. It felt like exagerado. And I know there's people that are praying there constantly, people who show up there constantly, people who are always preparando el ambiente. So worship in the spirit of God is super, super important for us to live it out that way.
Yeah.
I have one question that I've been meaning to ask you. I know, I'm gonna tell y'all, Giselle has changed. Who are you? Giselle, like about a year or so ago, I can't believe it, but we were not close. We were apart. Yeah. And I think because todavía no habíamos entendido, like, Cristo, no habíamos entendido nuestro papel aquí en la tierra, no habíamos entendido el propósito eterno de Dios. Like, por lo menos yo no había entendido muchas cosas a mí me faltaban entender. And I think you too, because what were we governed by? Estamos governed by our own emotions. You know, our will was like contrary to God's will. We didn't align with God's will. And dude, like, we didn't get along, you know, siempre había esa tensión. So it's crazy to me that a whole year later I talk to you and yo discerno that there has been a transformation in your heart. Like, yo quedo like, wow, like, Giselle no era así, you know? And that to me is a testimony. I've never seen such a 180. Like, I really I know you're this, but I've never seen such a 180. And when I talk to you now,
180 or 360?
360 will be in the same place. You want me?
No.
Yeah, I know why you didn't major in math. It's okay. 360 is si doy la vuelta y termino aquí. Just, you were trying to be like clever with that. It's okay. I got you 180. Okay. So 180 is like if you turn the other way. So it was a complete 180. It was like from black to white with Giselle. Like, no les exagero. Cuando yo hablaba con ella, I don't know, Giselle was just full of like a lot of stuff that needed healing. And you talk to people like that. But I wasn't perfect either, of course. But when I talk to you now, it makes me feel so much better. I'm like, wow, I really like talking to mi hermana. I think she's more chill now. You know, she has her mind in the right place, you know. So I've definitely seen a transformation there. And I think a big part of that has been cuando uno en general, not just you, cuando uno en general busca conocimiento, la Biblia, estudio, se mete en right now I'm in University en teología, el conocimiento te transforma todo, like todo el ser, como tú piensas, como tú actúas, everything. That to me has played a big role in my life in the last couple months. I feel like the more I study the Bible, the more I'm in these classes, man, I feel like, who am I? I feel like it's changing me. Pero since I know that you've been in your word, I know you've been doing your little studies y todo, my question to you is, what is your biggest lesson that you've learned, biggest takeaway, teaching from the Bible this past year?
Wow, that's a big question.
Or yeah, the biggest one. Yeah,
my biggest takeaway, I just have a lot of takeaways, you know, but like, I don't think I have one takeaway. I really don't. I cannot tell you.
Oh, of course, the Bible is inexhaustible.
Yeah.
O sea, no, you know, there's not just one lesson you get them from the Bible. Pero in the year that you've been studying, what's been the one thing que te ha ayudado a cambiar mucho, que te ha, como que el Espíritu Santo te ha cambiado? Like, ¿qué palabra fue la que te transformó? ¿Qué tópicos estuviste estudiando where you were like, wow, o sea, you felt like que te estaba cambiando la mente?
Yeah. So I think that something that que siempre me ministra when I think about the Lord is, and like I did have an encounter with the Lord. I had multiple encounters this year, but one, I think it was one of my most not recent, but like at the time, you know, one of my first encounters. I think it was whenever like I told God, I was like, God, I want to meet you. Like, I don't want to meet you from what people say, or I don't want to meet you from detrás de una prédica, or I don't want to meet you detrás de un testimonio. I want to meet you like on a personal level. Like, I want to experiment you. So I remember like I was doing this challenge with two of my leaders, and we were doing 40 days. It was 40 days of purity. And it's so perfect how everything went, because we started the 40 days, and on day number 40 was my birthday, which
cool.
was a coincidence. Like, it was every single day estudio, leemos un testimonio, estudiamos, and then like we nos reunimos una vez a la semana. So it was, or 2 times a week, but literally it was so hard. And I also remember, like, you know, growing up in church, like, Mercy, I cannot tell you a time whenever, like, you know, que confesé que Jesús era mi Salvador. I worshipped him as my Lord and Savior, but I don't remember a single time. Like, I would say, sí, yo creo en el Señor, and like, you know, Jesus is God. But I don't remember a single time cuando yo confesé. And I think it was like day 39 of the book. And it was like, you know, talking about God being our Lord and Savior. And I remember, like, it hit me. And I was like, yo nunca he confesado. I worship him. I know him. He is God. Pero nunca he confesado. So I remember I was on my lunch break. I was doing a fast. And I remember there I was like, this is my time. And so ahí sola, donde nadie me miraba, on my lunch break, I got 30 minutes fasting, studying the word. I was 30 minutes. Literally, like, I was like, God. And I was just, like, my car was just so filled of the presence. And ahí fue donde confesé. And that was like, what, a year ago? But I always served him my whole life. But I never confesar, like de mi boca y declarar, él es, you know, mi Salvador. So that day confesé, which is kind of crazy, you know. But ese día, you know, yo confesé. And of course, like, my relationship with the Lord got better. And so then we dug into the book of James, which I recommend James, like, you know, if there's any youth that is struggling with, like, identity and, you know, característica de un cristiano, the book of James is really, really good. It's a really good foundation where you can start. It's very clear to the point. It's very beautiful. And so then I started, like, seeing, like, you know, comparing my life to what James was saying. And so I started comparing everything, and I started kind of like James talks about, I think it's chapter 2 or chapter 3 or chapter 1. It's one of those. But he talks about being hacedores de la palabra. So it talks about like us cumpliendo lo que dice la palabra.
Yeah.
No solo escuchar, no solo leer, sino que cumplir lo que dice la palabra. And what does that mean? That means we have to do a lot of sacrifice. That means we have to, like, you know, get out of our comfort zone. So I remember I was just like, okay, you know, like, I have to do this. So I started, right? And so then, you know, we finished that book. It was really amazing. Then we started doing collagens, and it was just so amazing. And like, whenever I was doing James, because, you know, like, our whole life, like, we've always been like around church and everything, but I never sat down and studied the Bible,
right?
You know, so
exactly.
When I started, and I think once we finished James, I was just like, this cannot be over. There's no way. It was kind of like, you know, you're watching the show and you're really into it. And I was like, there's no way James could be over. But it's crazy because it's like, no, the Bible's not over. Like, I have 65 more books to go. This is just book number 1. So then we started doing Colossians. And when we started reading the book of Colossians, that's when it just, like, it hit me. And I guess, like, from this whole year, I think that what has just impacted me and kind of, like, not impressed like as in a whoa, but like marcar mi vida y mi corazón, is that he is worthy. And he is just so worthy. I'm about to cry. But he's just so worthy of it all. And yes, we are not perfect, but he is there, you know, and he's merciful. So that's something that has really impacted me. And so it's like, he is worthy of my time. He is worthy of everything I do. He's worthy of my thoughts. He's worthy of cada cosa, cada decisión que yo hago. You know, it's like, I'm in a relationship with him. Like, I almost feel like I'm married, you know, and just knowing that he is worthy no me hace sentir sola. No me hace sentir que estoy preocupada. No me hace preocuparme por el día de mañana cuando yo estoy aquí. You know, like, es al día a día, y si estoy con él, I'm gonna be okay. Absolutely. You know? So it's just like, just knowing that he is worthy, you know, just setting our eyes on the Lamb is just so beautiful, you know? And it's just like, I'm just in so much awe with him. And that is something that I feel like also a lot of Christians go through when we get to that primer amor. And I was actually reading yesterday while I was praying for the youth. And so I just started reading the book of Revelation in chapter 2 cuando dice, pero tengo en contra ti que has dejado tu primer amor. But it's very important to, you know, to reflect on that passage, because nosotros lo dejamos. No es él que se va. He is there, pero es nosotros. ¿Y qué es lo que pasa? Viene el pecado, and so it pushes us away. You know, it's not like God doesn't leave. He's there, but it's just us. So it's just that stage of el primer amor is crucial. It is something that we shouldn't let, you know, the fire burn down. We shouldn't let it dry up. It should always be un fuego encendido dentro de nosotros, como dice en 2 Timoteo, you know, que
nunca se apaga el fuego.
Yeah. So it's just like, we really have to be passionate about the Lord sobre todas las cosas.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy. Yeah. Right? But whenever our eyes are set on the Lamb, and we love what he loves, and we hate what he hates, and we see everything in his eyes, and we want to be like him, not because he's perfect, but because es el Hijo de Dios, es Jesús, es Dios. Like, doing that, it becomes easier. When we live a life very transparent and a life very pure, it becomes easy because we love him. It obviously, it has its challenges, but it's more like we delight in the Lord rather than, tengo que sacrificar esto, tengo que dejar esto, I can't talk to whoever because son yugo desigual. It's like, you know, el Señor de verdad que nos revela. And something that we always pray for the youth with the leaders is we always pray for el espíritu de sabiduría, revelación por la juventud, por la generación. We always pray those things because there comes a time, you know, like when we were in high school, like you mentioned, you know, like we really didn't know who we were. It was kind of like an identity crisis. And, you know, especially in this generation, it becomes hard.
And the world tries to tell you who you are.
Yeah, the world tries to tell you. The enemy tries to, like, you know, meterte mentiras en la cabeza. And I thank God that even though we weren't perfect, and we still are, I thank God that we never, like, nunca llegó muy fuerte eso. You know, like, yes, we struggle to find our identity, but entre más conocemos al Señor, más conocemos quiénes somos como hijo. Más conocemos nuestro propósito. And so, you know, all these things start falling into place, como dice Mateo 6:33, you know, primeramente buscar el reino de Dios y su justicia y todo lo demás.
I love that verse.
I love that verse too. And so, you know, it's just like putting God first. And what does that look like, putting God first? Well, it means we have to sacrifice a lot of things, but it shouldn't hurt porque lo amamos. You know, it's like, it really shouldn't hurt. So it's just like understanding the concept of who is God. Like, do we think we're giving enough? Like, or ya, o sea, ya dimos todo, that's it. Well, you haven't understood the purpose of who God is, you know. And like, I remember the other day I was praying in my car, and I was just like I was just so, like, in my heart, like, I just felt like the Lord was telling me, like, there's a lot of people who think I'm an imaginary friend. And that broke me. It completely broke me. Yeah. And so, like, I just started praying over the youth, and I'm like, God, like, forgive us for thinking that you are an imaginary friend, because you are real. You are so real. And so, like, I just started praying over that. And, you know, also, like, I feel like there's a lot of people, that take the word very lightly. Like, it's just like a little quote of the day, a little daily devotion, but we really have to aplicar eso. But I think that the biggest takeaway from this year is that he is worthy. So it's like, everything I do, I don't want to hurt him. You know, I want to please him. I remember during my identity crisis, I would Google and search on YouTube how to make God happy, or how to be a good daughter for the Lord.
Google's about to blow up.
But like, I remember doing those things because I didn't have a solid foundation in the Lord. And so now that I do, it's like, and the crazy thing is, like, a pesar de todo eso, like, I did not have no conocimiento. Y esa es otra cosa también, like, we can have conocimiento, but conocimiento y sabiduría are two different things.
For sure.
You know, so we have to ask the Lord for that spirit of wisdom and revelation, for we could know how to be wise in him, through him, not in our own, like, what we think. You know what I mean?
Real quick, so me impactó how you said that some people see God as their imaginary friend, because for a long time I did see God in that way. I digo yo sé que existe, pero, you know, like, no lo siento. He said, ay, no, pero yo sé que es mi amigo fiel.
Yo tengo un amigo, yo.
Pero one question that I always had was, do you remember that one time que fuimos a evangelizar a la Bourbon? We went to go, they call it frontline evangelism at Bourbon Street, aquí en Nueva Orleans, if you know Bourbon Street, lo que era. And we went, teníamos unos cubes.
I remember.
El cube is a rubrics. Uno lo abre, ahí enseña a Jesús, después uno lo cierra así, Jesús en la tumba y Jesús resucitado. Y uno iba a la gente, mira, y le enseñaba, and you would tell them. And one thing que siempre he escuchado growing up is, hey, like, cuando uno quiere evangelizar a un, you know, un perdido, you know, whatever, un alma perdida. Hey, Jesús te ama, Jesús murió en la cruz por tus pecados. Okay. No, espérate. Okay, pero I always heard that y nunca entendí, fíjate. Like, yo amén, sí, qué bonito, pero nunca entendí exactamente a qué se refería. Y por mucho tiempo, I never told nobody this, pero por mucho tiempo, I was like, o sea, se predicaba, se decía, yo miraba las fotos de Jesús en la cruz, pero nunca entendí. I was like, no, o sea, ¿qué tiene eso que ver conmigo? Okay, sí, yo tengo pecados, you know, I understand, pero nunca, it was something que me hacía llorar o postrarme, like, so for a very long time, en mi espíritu, I was just like, God, ayúdame a entender esto, because I know it's a big deal. And luckily, coming to this church, that has been one of the biggest takeaway. Y lo doy gracias a Dios, como decía Joel en la prédica, que cuando Dios te tiene una promesa, siempre te llama to leave where you came from. And it's uncomfortable. Like Abraham lo mandó, Moisés lo mandó, you know, all these people lo saca. And coming to the church has really helped me. So one thing that I took away este año from the Bible, and I want to close everything on this note. One thing I took away from the Bible was la revelación de Cristo y expresar a Cristo. Those are things that nunca había escuchado en mi vida, que la vine a escuchar aquí. Y a través de, la gente decía, se te tienen que revelar a Cristo. Y yo no entendía, o sea, ¿cómo revelar cómo? You know? Y yo oraba, Dios, revélame, okay. Y expresar a Cristo, peor, like, how do you express out a Jesus Christ? Like, what?
Yeah.
So those things, when I started buscando la Biblia, las prédicas, los estudios, los libros, and I started really going into it, y ahí estamos todavía, because uno no, uno no se cansa.
Yeah.
Cuando estaba ahí, bruh, the cross question that I had about why the cross is important, my mind has been blown into pieces. Cuando uno dice Jesús te ama, Jesús murió en la cruz por ti, bruh, es que no, o sea, para mí hay que rephrase como uno evangeliza, mi opinión, because yes, that's una verdad súper importante que tienen que saber, claro que sí, o se tienen que tomar el tiempo to break that down to people enough to the point where they understand, invitarlos y seguir en esa verdad, y seguir, kind of like when you have a seed and you're putting water in it, porque es una verdad that transforms your entire self, you know what I mean? So for me, the biggest takeaway is la revelación de Cristo, de little by little, cada día, el Espíritu Santo. I always see el Espíritu Santo como el mensajero de Dios.
That's right.
Because I always see pues la Biblia dice the kingdom of heaven, ¿verdad? Kingdom, okay. Ahí está el rey tiene su dominio, la tierra, okay, cool. Pero ese rey tiene una cultura, tiene a will, tiene planes que quiere hacer, ¿verdad? So, and I've learned this in a lot of books and in meditating, that el Espíritu Santo opera como un mensajero entre nosotros y el rey. So basically, si el rey, Dios que está en el trono, nos quiere transferir a nosotros la voluntad, que se nos llegue una revelación por eso se dice, por medio del Espíritu Santo se les revela. It's true, el Espíritu Santo está aquí. And it comes with those messages straight from heaven. And I think that is like incredibly awesome. So that's the way that I see the kingdom of heaven, and all of what I've been studying has changed me as a person in the past year. I love that you've learned that he's worthy. I love that you've activated yourself in church. I love that we were able to talk about like worship and what it means to actually be a true worshiper, you know what I mean? And where do you think, to kind of close it off, where do you think, because you're going to graduate, like, when? ¿Este año?
May.
¿Este año?
May, yeah.
El otro
2025, yeah.
El otro año. You're going to graduate. So do you plan on, how does your degree, you think, go hand in hand with what you've been learning, de Jesús y todo, like, what, how do you see it going hand in hand one day?
Okay, so I've been praying about it, actually. And something that I've always been passionate about that I've shared with you is I love kind of like volunteer work. I love mission trips. Like, that is something that is just so big in my heart, and the Lord knows my heart. And, like, I hope that one day the Lord could send me, places where it's hard to talk about the word and talk about the gospel, like, it just
about to just about to be ¿cómo se dice? She gonna be persecuted allá in China, turned upside down across
everything. And so that is something that I'm really just passionate about. And so I do feel like the Lord, he was like telling me, like, okay, like, you're here in the US, like, how are you spreading the gospel with the people next to you? How are you spreading the gospel with your neighbor? If you want to go across the world, you need to start here. It's like little by little. And I think that one of the biggest things with also doing that is being that person who reflects Christ, being that person with the essence of Christ, and not just talk about the gospel. If you're gonna curse and do all these things, like, de eso no se trata. Yeah. So you have to be consistent with what you're saying. And so, like, I have started little by little, but I think that one of my biggest dreams, and the Lord knows, like, I'll really, I know people call me crazy. I've shared it with a few people, a lot of people. So everybody has supported me. But I remember, like, someone really important to me told me, you don't know what that is. Like, you don't know what you're asking for. I would love to have a church. I would love to be, a pastora. I would love to have a church, kind of like upper room, and like, toma tu lugar, just a church Christ-centered. And so I would love to be a church that involves mission trips and involves preaching the gospel where it's very hard. So I think that all that también tiene que ver con la justicia social, like that social justice in me too. You know, like I love justice. I love the justice of God, and I also love I always compare and connect like God's justice to our justice, you know, here on earth. Like that should be our laws, you know. And so that is something that I'm always thinking about. But I would love to, like, with all that, que la justicia and all that stuff, like trying to like bring awareness of the truth, which is the gospel. And so that is something that I really want to do. And so I think that you know, criminology and everything has despertar un hambre en mí de la justicia, pero sobre todo la justicia de Dios. And so I really want to, like, kind of, with my degree and with my passion for the Lord, kind of want to bring that together. So, you know, slowly but surely I'm starting, and it's like with my neighbor. Como estoy con mi what is it called? My
vecino.
No.
Mi prójimo.
Prójimo. You know, como estoy con mi prójimo. Also, like, how am I reflecting Christ? And, you know, en qué puedo aportar? And just like all these little things, like, I know para terminar, but recently
no, you're good.
I went to a trip to New Mexico, and I remember going on that trip. I had 2 trips recently. I went to New Mexico and then also went to Honduras. And I remember before going to those trips, I was like, God, I want you to use me. Like, I want to do something for you over there. You know, like, I'm on a school trip. Todos son mundanos. Nadie conoce a Cristo. And so it's really hard to talk about Christ because la gente no le gusta la verdad. It's like you're touching a wound, but he's the healer. It makes no sense. And so I remember, like, telling God, úsame. Like, I don't know how, but please use me. I wanna leave something behind here. Because who knows if I'll ever go back to New Mexico. And that trip was, we were going to help immigrants. We went to shelters. We went to the border of Mexico. It was an amazing trip. It was something that I will never forget. But I remember the second day we were there. The first day was a travel day. The second day, technically the first day, I remember we went to a detention center. You know, entramos, era unas americanas de la organización. And so we went, and so we sat in, like, the visitation room, and, like, we got these chairs, and we made it into a circle. So all the students sat, and we left one chair in between, right, para que ellos se sientan en medio de nosotros. So, you know, we get there and everything, and, you know, we sat down, and whenever the guys came in, I remember just, like, I don't know, like, my heart was just so, like, I have no words to explain it, but I remember just looking at them, and I'm like, God, this is your time. Use me. Like, heme aquí, Señor. I'm here. And so I remember, like, you know, we were, like, getting to know them and everything, talking to them. And so I remember, like, I felt like the Lord was telling me in my heart, he was like, pray for them. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, Señor, ¿y cómo voy a hacer eso?
Yeah.
And he's like, pray for them. And I'm like, okay. You know, I see. So I asked one of the assistant teachers, the staff from Loyola, I'm like, hey, look, like, I feel it in my heart. And I started crying while telling her, I'm like, hey, I feel it in my heart that we need to pray for them. And she was like, okay. And she was like, all right, let me ask. So she lifted up her hand, and she told the ladies from the organization, she was like, we have a request from Giselle. Is there any way we can pray? Y cuando te digo que all hell broke loose. Literally, las mujeres de la organización, they were like, no, y'all can't do that, in front of all the students, in front of the Loyola staff, in front of all los presos, like, un gran berrinche. And so they were like, ustedes no pueden hacer eso. We're not an organization or, like, a religious group. Y'all can't do that. Like, you know, like, we're not known for that.
You should have been,
and so I was like, okay. And I was like, so let's do this. And I was like, los que quieren oración, nos vamos para un lado. Y los que no quieren, que se queden aquí sentados. And they were like, no podemos hacer eso porque qué tal que ofendemos a alguien, qué tal que alguien es budista o musulmán o lo que sea. And I'm like, I had no words. And so I told my the teacher, I'm like, hey, like, can we at least, like, let's just try it. And so I told the lady, so I'm like, let's just try it. Let's just see. Los que quieren. And literally, los presos are just looking at us back and forth, like, you know, un gran pleito que se armó. And so one of the students came in. She was like, you know what? Like, just forget about it. No vamos a hacer nada porque con ustedes no se puede hacer nada. She was talking about the people from the organization. So, you know, eso, you know, así pasó. So I remember.
Were you able to pray or no?
I'm gonna get to that. So I remember I remember after that, like, you know, I was just so broken. I was like, God, there's no way que me voy a ir y algo no va a pasar. Like, I was just like, no, si no me bendice, no me voy. You know that story from the Bible? So I was just like, God, like, there's no way. So I remember, like, you know, like, I guess like 25 minutes went by, ya nos íbamos y todo. And then the lady from the organization, she was like, does anybody want to say anything? My heart was pounding. So it was like, I do. So I went and I was like literally, like, I was just like, I was talking in Spanish, right? Because they're all Hispanic. And I was like, miren, yo no sé. I was nervous. I was so nervous. But I was like, solo les quiero decir gracias por el tiempo que ustedes nos han dado. Quiero que ustedes sepan que ustedes son una gran bendición para nuestra vida y somos muy agradecidos de tenerlos aquí. Y sé que no ha sido fácil, pero una palabra que quiero compartir con ustedes. And God, He gave it to me in my heart. It was Matthew 6:33.
I love it.
I shared that with them. And Mercy, when I tell you, like, the guy started crying. And uno de ellos lo dijo todo el versículo conmigo. He was just crying. El otro like, it just, he was so touched by the word. A student was crying. The staff from Loyola was crying. And it was just so beautiful. So beautiful. You know, le di una palabra like, miren, yo sé que este tiempo es muy difícil para ustedes. Y tal vez yo nunca les voy a entender, pero el Señor sí les entiende. You know, si hablamos de sufrimiento, that's like, I guess, like, Jesus is like the greatest love story there is. You know, his suffering. And it's true love. And so, like, I told them, like, en este tiempo, busquen al Señor. Y todo va a salir bien. Les prometo, es una promesa que el Señor nos da. And He's not going to fail. And so after everything, girl, I was just so, like, I was crying my eyes out telling them. And they were crying, Mercy. And I remember, like, going up to them y los abrazaba. You know, sin conocer los abrazaba. I just started praying over them. And, you know, me dieron sus nombres. Uno de ellos, he was like, mire, gracias por esa palabra. Like, de verdad que lo necesitaba. And he was like, ¿cuál es su nombre? Yo también voy a orar por usted. And it was very touching. And so, you know, it was just something that I will always remember. You know, I was 19, 20. And so it's something that I'm always going to remember. And it's crazy because I remember that was just the first day of the trip. When I tell you, when we got into the car, nobody talked to me. Everybody was like todo picudo conmigo. Everyone was serious with me. It was like, that weird girl who won't talk about God in the prison. Wow. Like, you know, I was just like the black sheep. But I was in that moment, we were studying Colossians. So I was like, if Paul could do it, I could do it.
Yeah, it's crazy que cuando uno trae la verdad, trae a Dios, el enemigo se opone. Yeah. Los demonios dentro de las personas, unfortunately, se oponen. Pero crazy how they try to, what's the word? Scapegoat the individual who has the truth. And people will turn against you. We see it with big leaders like Jordan Peterson. Mi respeto, because these people, they practice justice and they practice saying the truth regardless of persecution. And that man is being persecuted crazy. Wow. The courts are turning against him. He's a doctor in psychology. They're stripping his license away. Wow. He is being persecuted a lo loco, but he's doing something right. So people like that. So definitely what you're saying about people treating you weird and dumb and you being ridiculed and being the scapegoat and being the exile of the group, 100% means you're doing the right thing. Yeah. And you want to know what's crazy? You were telling me, we did have a short intermission just now, like we stopped because of a light that went out. But just now you were saying about the list, and you were saying, what were you saying? Because I was gonna say something about that.
Yeah, so like I have a list in my daily devotion notebook, and I have a list of every single way that I have met the Lord.
But you said something
personal level.
Oh, your anxiety. Fíjate que kind of. Before we close up,
because I want to say something before we close too. It's a little quick testimony. Okay?
So something about you is when you were going through your anxiety, I remember you having like just like a lot of it, to the point where you were kind of like ahogándote in anxiety, to the point where you needed help y todo. And I remember you were going to church. If you had to get I mean, nunca entendí why you had anxiety when you were going to church and serving y todo. I was not judging you because we cannot judge, because you have a battle today, and I don't know what's coming for me in the future, and I wouldn't want anyone to judge. I would want love, you know. So, but I would analyze your situation a lot, and I would be like, "Qué raro que she's having like anxiety episode, pero she's there." But it does go to show that you do have people serving in church that still need help. You know, we serve, but we still need God. And what I would do is I would pray for you. I would be like, Dios, honestly, no entiendo por qué ella tiene anxiety, because like you were saying, when we truly meet Jesus, there's no room for that. Hay plenitud en Cristo. Amen. What anxiety? Yeah. So I never understood that. But me regocijo que en el Señor que you were able to find Christ y todo y que se te quitó. And that's exactly what I wanted for you. Fíjate, I wanted you to understand Jesus and know I have everything in Jesus. There's no room for me to be, you know, como dice la Biblia, if God viste, if the birds flying tienen de comer, and you know the flowers y todo,
tú que vales más que las aves de los cielos.
How much more does he love you? You know, I love that song. So
I just realized
that
is that song.
Yeah, if he watches over every shadow. I cannot even sing, but how much more does he love you?
I
would just sing it when I felt como insegura and when I needed help. But you were gonna say un testimonio before we close.
So right before we close, I'm sorry. So I also want to say that like it's crazy because yes, we struggle as una persona en, you know, en Cristo. Tenemos nuestras luchas, no es fácil. Y también somos como somos usados por Dios para ayudar a otros, you know, so it's like a chain, you know, y las personas que nos ayudan a nosotros también pasan sus cosas, y las personas que les ayudan a ellos también pasan sus cosas, so it's like a never ending thing, pero estamos aquí para ayudarnos, ¿va? Y cada uno tenemos una función diferente. But what I wanted to testify is that I struggled with anxiety really, really bad. Panic attacks and everything, going to the hospital and everything, going to a psychiatrist and everything. Like, it was something really, really bad that like I knew I had something coming up in 3 months, and I could not sleep over that because I knew it was in 3 months, because I thought something was going to happen to me. Si cerraba los ojos en la noche, I thought I wasn't going to wake up. Like, it was something que me costó mucho, pero I'm so grateful. I am so grateful that I went through everything, and I'm so grateful that in todo eso I met, you know, one of my leaders, she has completely like just, wow, I'm so blessed to have her. She really has helped me a lot. 2 of my leaders, they're like my best friends ever. But you know, in todo eso, I remember fui a Honduras for una Navidad, and I remember over there, girl, I went to the hospital because I was having a lot of anxiety. But I was having anxiety because just the environment that I was in, I wasn't used to. And so I felt a lot of pressure. And I remember every night, like, or like for the couple nights que nos faltaba, I'd be like, Jade, can you hug me? Like, I really feel like I'm panicking. And like, I would cry. And I'm, Jade, please hug me. Jade, he was just like, okay. Just like there, like a pillow.
Where that boy at? I love you.
But I remember like, Jade, can you please hug me? Like, I feel like my heart is beating. And he would hug me until I fell asleep. And he would just be there. But there was just
a good husband.
He
if
really
y'all looking for a boyfriend.
No, not yet.
I mean, yeah.
A husband. Nah, boyfriend.
Not yet, but it's in the making.
But I remember and all that, like, you know, I was really going through it. And like, you know, we have a cousin, I'm not going to say the name, but we have a cousin that also goes through a lot. And I just remember like, you know, like just my head was in the right space, pero todo fue porque no conocía a Cristo. Yeah. That's literally all it is. Falta de identidad.
Cuando estamos, no estamos bajo el gobierno de Dios, we act literally in darkness and pecado, and we literally feel the ramifications of not having God in our life, like anxiety, depression, loneliness, el vacío that people look to fill. So definitely when you meet Jesus and you come under the government of God, that's something I learned in my class. When you come under the government of God, you live in a state of reposo. You're calm because you know He's in control.
That's right. Because
you know that todo está hecho en un orden exacto with Jesus. But you continue.
That's right. I really like that you share that. But like, you know, we have a cousin that, you know, goes through a lot. So I remember coming back, And it's been, since that December, it has been 2 years. Okay. And every single day, if not every single day, it was every other day. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, yes, we spoke every single day for 2 years. And I got to a point where while God was changing me, I began to share the gospel with him every single day and sending verse after verse. There would be times where it would be hard because I felt like nothing was going through. Every single day, Mercy. When I would have a chance at school, we would be on the phone. I would just preach the gospel, preach the gospel. Our cousin will go through so much pain, so much this, so much, like a lot of things that I won't share on here. But after 2 years, like, and then right now when I went to Honduras on this trip, I remember feeling in my heart, like I told you, like God speaks to me in my heart. Some it's in our mind and a lot of things, but for me, it's in my heart. Yeah, me, it's in my heart. It's so strong and it's so clear. And I just know it's God. And so I remember God telling me this trip will be different. And you have a purpose on this trip with him y con una tía tuya. And I was just like, okay, let's see. So I remember also right when mom and dad dropped us off at the airport with Yair, mom told me this trip will be different. And it was just like I felt that confirmation from the Lord. When we get there, this trip was very different. And it changed our cousin's life forever. And we went to this church with Yair. And, like the Lord, spoke to us and everything. It was really nice. And so I was like, I cannot leave this country if I do not bring my cousin here. Because I know my cousin, this will be amazing for him. Not because of the pastor or anything, but because he will I just knew God had something for him. And so, I brought him and everything, and the Lord spoke to him. And we spoke, last time we spoke was like a week ago. And after our trip from Honduras, like the Lord spoke to him en lo ministro. O sea, era algo increíble, impactante, que yo no me lo esperaba. Like, era más de lo que esperé. And that's how God works, And so I remember after the trip, like God told me, suéltalo. He's with me. And I was like, God, but it's been 2 years of discipling him de la larga distancia. And God told me again, Él está conmigo. He's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, after the second time God told me, I was like, okay, God, te lo dejo. Yo sé que está en las mejores manos, que son las tuyas. And I stopped talking to him for a month. It was hard because every day for 2 years, every single day discipling someone, you tend to miss them. You tend to, you want to see how they're doing. So I remember a month went by. Y le compré el incendario. I bought him the incendario, which is an amazing book. A month went by. We were at church with Yair. That day I was thinking about him. And I was like, God, like, my heart. And I'm about to cry. But I'm like, God, my heart. And, like, yo deseo lo mejor para él. And it's been 2 years of you doing your work in him. And I just know you're glorifying yourself now. Even though I don't know what's happening, I know you're glorifying yourself. And I get a message in the service. He's like, hey, cousin, I just want to let you know that I'm so grateful for you and for your life. And I'm so grateful for the book that you have given me because it has changed my life. And he has found his identity in Christ. He has gave his life to Christ. He no longer struggles with anxiety and depression. Wow. He is doing a discipleship at his church. And every weekend he goes to a mountain with, the prophet, and they go pray and they fast. And his life has completely changed. Wow. And our grandma, she's going to church now with him. And it's just like, it's so beautiful to see, God glorifying himself through our family. And, even though no family is perfect, I do believe that God did use me as a vessel. And he used me over there. And that was my purpose, and if I knew that's what it was, I would do it again and again. And with one of my aunts, I remember we spoke about something, and before landing, I already knew the conversation I had to have with her. you know, I don't really talk to her because, you know, it's long distance, but I know that we had to talk about a conversation that was hard for her. And so when we got there, we spoke about it. And the Lord truly used me to speak truth, you know, truth into her worries. And, you know, it is something that I'm so grateful for. And it's something that it's hard for her to overcome. And that's something that, you know, was hard for me to overcome. And I was able to overcome it by, you know, reading the word and just trusting in the Lord. But what I wanted to say is that, you know, it's really beautiful how whenever we surrender ourselves to the Lord, how, you know, lo permitimos a Él trabajar en nosotros. And it really is beautiful. And, you know, we see it not only in ourselves, but in our surroundings as well. You know, hay, como te dije, hay una seguridad en Cristo que nadie te la puede dar, ni tus amigos,
a spirit of courage.
There is, you know, this, I don't know, like this,
certitude.
No, this confidence. There's a confidence in the Lord when you play, when you read the word, when you speak, when you walk. There's just something of the Lord que nadie te lo puede dar. And that is something that I'm seeing in my family. That is something that I am seeing in my brother. I'm seeing in you. I'm seeing in my parents. And that is just something that I'm so grateful for. Yeah. And that is something that, you know, like, just la identidad de Cristo es todo. Y si no conocemos a Cristo, Él está ahí. And another thing too that I want to mention, a veces nos preguntamos, como dice Pablo, habla de la plenitud en Cristo, is like, will we ever llegar a conocer la plenitud de Cristo? And the answer is, hold on, let me, I know that, son, but the answer, mira, mientras que estemos en la tierra, the answer is no. The answer is no.
Right.
Porque no estamos, o sea, lo estamos esperando, su venida. So it's like, on our time on earth, no, pero Él está ahí para conocerlo todos los días de nuestra vida, desde la mañana hasta la noche. O sea, Él está ahí siempre. Y cuando Él venga por nosotros, it's like, lo vamos a seguir conociendo más porque Él es Dios, porque Él es soberano. He is not enough for us. He's too much para comprender. Pero that's what makes him God. Y muchas otras cosas, ¿verdad? Pero it's like, si yo te conozco todo, you know. And I was listening to a podcast, para terminar, sorry.
Eso está como predicadores que dicen, para terminar, para cerrar el mensaje.
But I was listening to a podcast too, and he was talking about hunger, and he was talking about being full. And he says that como el ser humano es bien como malagradecido, porque, you know, si tenemos hambre, comemos, ¿verdad? And si estamos llenos, like, ya no tenemos hambre, obvio, va. But he was like, lo lindo de Cristo y tener hambre de Cristo es cuando tenemos hambre y comemos, aún tenemos hambre. Es un hambre que nunca se acaba, y así deberíamos de vivir. Aunque estemos llenos, todavía tener hambre. And it's just so beautiful. So I think that, you know, just trying to encourage everybody that he is not an imaginary friend. He is real. The spiritual world is real. And I think that it is important that we allow the Spirit to move in us, to work in us. Y no solo uno dice, Señor, tócame, pero no queremos que Él nos toque. Queremos que Él habite en nosotros. Queremos que Él penetre en nuestros corazones.
Que Él viva y no nosotros.
That's right.
And you know, it's beautiful because cuando uno conoce o está conociendo, porque yo no conozco a Dios, que yo diga, yo lo conozco. No. Es like, lo estamos conociendo. Yes. En el proceso de conocer a Cristo, yo he notado que Él ha sido like the cornerstone en mi vida. Él ha sido el agente que me une a otras personas, the agent that unites me. For example, with you, that has been something that I feel has drawn us closer, is like that specifically. Yeah. And what better thing to unite you, you know? And same, I'm married. I got married really young, 20, which is young nowadays. Back in the day, you know, but nowadays is really young to get married. And that's one thing that unites me and Joel is Joel has a huge passion for Christ, and I love that about him. And he knows that I have a very sensitive heart for Christ, and I'm very hungry for knowledge and for Christ. So it's something that unites us, and I always ask God for him to be the force that unites me with people. You know what I mean? Because
the bridge.
Yeah, believe it or not, God has shown me that it's inevitable that we're going to have to work with people while we're on earth. We're going to have to do people work, you know, and not our obras, because our obras are nothing pretty much. It's through our faith and through the Holy Spirit who's going to lead us into doing these works to glorify God and live a life that blesses God. So look, I absolutely love everything you said, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't think that it's enough. Like, I think like you were saying, it feels like we're just getting started. I've enjoyed this conversation for real, and believe it or not, as you're talking, like, there's things that, like, I'm gonna go home meditated on for sure. Things that like the confidence that you said, because I, for a long time, I struggled with low self-esteem and not believing in myself y todo. Pero it makes sense because no conocía a Cristo, and I was trying to find confidence, you know, a saber de dónde. So, pero that really, like, it moved me, because fue así como te atormentaba el anxiety, a mí me atormentaba como not feeling enough in this world. Yo he llorado, like, Dios, porque tú me traiste, you know, like, I feel like I'm a waste of space here, believe it or not. And yo he hablado con friends who are like, what? I can't believe that.
You know God in this, and you feel like that? Like,
well, I've told them back then, and they'd be like, wow, I could never imagine. And it makes me feel glad that I don't transmit that, you know, anymore. That ya ahora yo, pues, actúo de una manera, como actuaría una persona que conoce la verdad. Once you know the truth, like, you change. So, and every day I'm looking to God, how can I change this? And you know what's beautiful is, like, how the Holy Spirit intercede por nosotros. Right. I love that. Like, wow, that me impacta. So, Giselle, thank you so much for coming. Like I was saying just now, I think that there's a lot more podcasts that we need to do. There's a lot of topics that we would love to talk about. There's a lot of things. I've enjoyed this conversation. I'm going to definitely go home thinking about this. And of course, I have to listen to this while I'm editing. Pero gracias por estar aquí. And siempre le doy gracias a Dios, que Él sabe muy bien. Like, yo sé que Dios es sabio. He knew exactly who to pick as my family members. That's the way I see it. Like, I don't know. I don't see y'all as just like whatever. I see it as todo yo lo veo con propósito, como diseño de Dios. Like, I don't know why my mind's like that, pero, like, yo te veo a ti and I'm like, she's my sister for a reason. I see my dad and I'm like, he's my dad for a reason, and my mom, you know. And mom always said, I love saying this in all the podcasts, like, siempre aprende lo bueno de las personas. When mom told me that stayed in my heart forever. And if she passes in a few years, I'm never gonna forget that. So I definitely, like, I've learned a lot of good things about you, the new you. So I've appreciated this conversation, and there will be more. If y'all have questions for Giselle, or y'all want to, like, get in touch with her, or watch her amazing drumming videos, definitely check her Instagram out. Do you want to say anything before we go?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for having me here. It has been a privilege to be here talking about God, talking about testimonies, and being able to share, you know, things that we have gone through, and just seeing the glory of God in our life. And we do need a part 2. I'm excited to see, like, what else we can talk about and have the Spirit guide us. But before, you know, we close off, to do a short little prayer, you know, of gratitude and all that. So, Lord, we thank you, Father God, for giving us the opportunity to talk about your glory. God, I pray that the seed that you're going to plant in the hearts who are listening to this are watered with more of your glory, and are watered, God, every single day when they wake up. God, I pray that you use us, Lord, as an instrument every time we speak. And I pray, God, that the essence of Christ is with us everywhere that we walk, Father God. We give you thanks, God, and I thank you for Mersi's life and what you're doing with her. And I thank you for my life. And I know, God, that this is just the beginning of something greater.
God, I want to thank you in this opportunity for this specific time that you've brought us together to talk about these specific topics today. This podcast will go out to a few listeners, and they'll listen. And because I believe that faith comes through hearing, I do pray for people who are listening to this right now. God, like Giselle was mentioning, that this word, these conversations that we had today, these topics we spoke about, become that seed in their heart. I also pray, God, for the youth. Not too long ago, we were young girls who also needed of you. We both have went through very difficult times in our lives. And God, just like we were young one day, God, I pray for the youth of today. I pray, God, that you reveal yourself each day in their lives and that they may understand their identity. God, I know that there is a system today that is trying to confuse, distort. The enemy is always trying to lie. And the system that we have today is trying to confuse people about their identity, their gender, how they identify. And God, I rebuke that. I believe that, Lord, you have a plan with our youth. I've always believed that to change a nation, to change a state, to change a society, you need strong young people who will stand up against the system, Lord. I pray that as we spoke today, that the courage, the spirit of courage that you've given us, God, may that be the leading force in the youth of today, God. I also pray for girls, young women who are between going to church, not in church, desanimados because they've seen disappointments in leadership. God, I pray that they meet you, because when they meet you, God, there's no time to see others' mistakes. God, I pray that you bless everyone who tuned in today. And God, I pray for the future podcast that we will have with Giselle together, and that you may continue using her life. You may continue using her as an agent of change in this world and in our family. And I thank you, Lord, that you're using her and her life to bless you, Lord. Thank you so much for glorifying yourself today in this conversation. And we both fear you, and we understand that you are worthy. And Christ, we want to give you thank you. We have an abundance of gratitude in our hearts. And may you keep revealing yourself in our life. And may we be able to continue expressing you, Christ, in the years to come, Lord. And we give you thanks again for this beautiful opportunity to have come together today. We bless your name. Amen.
Amen.
Bye.
Bye.